Guys, it's approaching my favourite time of the year. Transfer season is almost upon us. Let's talk about some rumours. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Really excited to be bringing back the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. Already we've got an abundance of stuff to talk about in today's video. As always, if you did see a rumour that we don't mention in today's video, get it in the comments down below and we'll mention it next time. Also, let me know where you think your club most needs to strengthen over this summer transfer window. And as always, 300 likes would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump into this one. And we'll start out with the Alex Pritchard rumour. So recently, Championship clubs, quite a few of them actually, have released their retained list, so I know that more of them are going to do so in the next few weeks. Alex Pritchard will be available on a free over this summer, and there's already been some Championship clubs mentioned in the conversation. I remember last January QPR were mentioned, obviously maybe with a formal link up between Mark Warburton and Pritchard, who worked together at Brentford, but the most recent clubs to be mentioned in the conversation are Derby and Birmingham. Now Birmingham may look to go down the Alan Halilovic option. Obviously he's been with Birmingham this season, so they may look to tie him down for a further year, and probably looks the more feasible player for them to get in that sort of number 10 role. For Derby, it'd be an interesting choice because Derby are looking like they'll be in the situation come the summer now where they'll be relying once again on sort of free transfers and loans coming in to sort of patch up that squad going into next season. So someone like a Pritchard, I wouldn't be all too surprised if he is on their radar. Now, his time at Huddersfield has been an absolute disaster. It's been a time filled with injuries where he's struggled for consistency and to get a regular place in that team. When he has featured, hasn't exactly been a game changer like a lot of people thought he might be. He made just the 6 starts for Huddersfield this season with 12 appearances coming off the bench. Even when Carlos Corberán came in, we thought that maybe Pritchard would be utilised a little bit more. You know, a team that looks to get on the ball we thought would suit him, but it's not happened for him whatsoever. He needs a fresh start somewhere else. Derby fans, would you take Pritchard? Let me know down below. Looking at Coventry's retained list, one of the interesting departures is Max Biamou, who's going to be leaving them at the end of the season. Obviously, couple of promotions with Coventry from League 2 and then from League 1. Played in the Championship, scored 5 goals for them this season, so I'm interested to see where he ends up next. One of the big transfer rumours, though, that I think is going to rumble on throughout this transfer window is going to be surrounding Gustavo, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little bit of a bidding war for his services. At the moment, we've had the likes of West Brom, Brighton, Rangers, Watford and Norwich all interested in the midfielder. West Brom, I think, would be quite an interesting move with them coming back down to the Championship. I think that midfield's going to be a bit of an area where they're looking for a little bit of a rebuild coming into this season. Obviously, for West Brom, Yokosu in the Premier League has been absolutely wonderful since he came in, but I'm not sure I can see him sticking around for another season there in the Championship. Obviously, he's on loan there at the moment, but if they were able to pull that deal off, that would be fantastic. But Gustavo ticks a lot of boxes for West Brom, I think. I know that he did have a bit of a tail off towards the end of the season for me in terms of his form, but the qualities are still there in an absolute abundance, you know. He's right up there in terms of Coventry statistics this season for tackles per 90, interceptions and for key passes as well. He's a very well-rounded midfielder and someone who I think would fit into this West Brom side if they are looking for a bit of a rebuild in the middle. But he certainly won't go for cheap, you know. Coventry are going to want to keep hold of their prize assets, so I'm very interested to see how that story develops as the months go on. Rondell Williams is expected to leave Exeter at the end of this season as he's looking for a move closer to home. A return to Wycombe could perhaps be on the cards. He's been one of the, I'd say, highest performing players probably in League 2 over the last couple of years at Exeter. Obviously, he can either play as a bit of a winger or as a wing back. Last season, actually, he's been linked to quite a few Championship moves after getting 5 goals and 14 assists. You'd imagine there'd be quite a bit of interest here. It's also been reported that Sonny Bradley has turned down a contract extension at Luton, which would make him a free agent coming into this summer. Now, Preston North End were previously very interested in him in January, so for that interest to resurface come the summer wouldn't be a surprise whatsoever. He fits the profile of the sort of defender that we're after at the moment. Obviously, quite a physical player, left-footed as well, which would suit us. Obviously, we've had Liam Lindsay on loan from Stoke to sort of fill that gap this season, but Bradley ticks a lot of boxes for North End. Fairly experienced as well at 29, and maybe he sees this as that last opportunity for him to get a sort of, I don't know, like big move or whatever in terms of like getting that new big contract and things like that. Aerially, he's been very good for Luton this season, winning 3.6 average aerial duels per 90. As a North End fan, I wouldn't mind this one actually. Sheffield Wednesday striker Jordan Rhodes has reportedly been in talks with Huddersfield over a summer transfer. This would be on a free as well, with his contract running out at the end of the season. 7 goals for Rhodes this season. I think it's fair to say that the move to Wednesday in general was disappointing. Injuries haven't helped, and I don't think that anyone's kidding themselves that Jordan Rhodes is the same player now that he was, 5 or so years ago. However, is he a better option than what Huddersfield currently have as their striker options going into next season? Probably. I don't think that he was helped by Sheffield Wednesday's lack of any sort of intent in the final third. They averaged 9.6 shots per 90. Only Bristol City averaged less than that this season in the Championship. So with a little bit more service in and around the box, he's no longer the most mobile of strikers, you'd say, but give him a chance in and around the 6-yard box and he's probably taking it, isn't it? So yeah, on a free transfer, it's not the worst bit of business, I don't think. Watford could make Ben Wilmot available for a move in the summer, and Swansea are one of the clubs said to be interested. Obviously, he had a fairly successful loan spell the other year with Swansea, didn't he? Obviously scored that goal against Cardiff, so will always be a fan favourite with the Swansea fans. He's not really had all too much of an opportunity this season at Watford. He's just had the 14 starts for them this season, and you'd imagine that now they're back up in the Premier League, his opportunities going into next season will be even more limited. So yeah, this is one that wouldn't surprise me. Neil Taylor will be available this summer with both Stoke and QPR being linked to the fullback. I'll be a little bit wary with this one just because he's not played all too much football since Villa had been promoted back up to the Premier League. This season actually he's only played 16 minutes of Premier League football. 32 years old, would add a bit of experience in that position, I suppose. Would depend on the wages for me if that was a decent option. Junior Hoylett's time at Cardiff has now come to an end, and a reunion with his former manager Neil Warnock could be on the cards, with Middlesbrough said to be interested in the winger. Would make sense, especially with Bolasie and Cabano both returning from their loan spells. I know that they'll probably be interested in bringing Bolasie back especially, but yeah, Hoylett, solid player at Championship level, isn't he? Not played all too much football this season for Cardiff, just the 14 starts for them. There's a really interesting story which is coming out from Stoke at the moment, and that's that Sam Clucas could be made available for a free transfer this summer, despite still having another year on his contract. Basically, reportedly, Stoke are trying to trim the wage bill, and with Clucas being one of the higher earners there, and also at 30 years old, they're looking to move him on come the summer. Now, Blackburn Rovers have been one of the clubs interested in the midfielder, and probably has been over the last couple of years one of Stoke's higher performing players. Got a good left foot on him. Be interested to know, Stoke fans, what you made of this one. Looks like Charlton will be going in for Jayden Stockley this summer, this time on a permanent basis. Would make sense, I think, for both parties, really. Can't see him being featured in the plans for Preston long term, and he's actually done fairly well out on his loan spell at Charlton in League One, scoring 8 goals in 20 starts for them. Norwich City are being linked to a few midfielders at the moment, the first of which being Union Berlin's Robert Andrich. I think that this one would tick a lot of boxes for what Norwich are looking for. Maybe one of the weaknesses that Norwich had in the Premier League last time round was in the middle. They were a little bit too lightweight, weren't they? They got some wonderful technical players in there, but someone with a bit more physicality and that know-how defensively, I think would serve them quite well. He's been the top performing player at Union Berlin, averaging around 1.8 tackles and interceptions per 90. Leicester City's Hamza Chowdhury is another one that I have seen mentioned with Norwich City, although I have seen some of the local reports suggesting that that won't be the case. And Celtic defender Christopher Aguiar has also been linked with a move to Carrow Road this summer. Quite a few clubs have been circulating around the 23-year-old defender. Interestingly enough as well, reportedly Chuba Akpom has been told that he's free to leave Middlesbrough this summer. Really telling, despite the fact that they only bought him last summer. They've not really got the value for what they paid for him. I think they paid just shy of 3 million in the end, didn't they? Initially, he started out fairly well at Borough, but as time's gone on, he's faded. He's just scored the 5 goals this season. It's clear to see that I'm not sure he is in Warnock long-term plans. In the second half of the season, he found starts a lot harder to come by. Reportedly, Bristol City are one of the clubs who are interested. And Middlesbrough could be looking potentially quite light in this area. Obviously, British Sambalonga will be departing. It looks like Rangers are the closest to securing his signature currently. And another departing Middlesbrough striker will be Ashley Fletcher. Now, I still think Ashley Fletcher's got a bit about him, He's missed a large chunk of this latest season through injury. He's only made 5 starts for Borough. But last season he had his moments. He scored 11 goals, got 7 assists, obviously scored that worldie against West Brom. Sheffield United are one of the clubs who is currently monitoring his situation. I think if you get him fit over a full season and get him in the right team, there's still a player there. Reading forward Yaku Mete is also attracting some interest from Premier League clubs actually. The Telegraph have been reporting that Crystal Palace, Watford and Brighton are all currently monitoring the forward situation, with Reading possibly forced to sell him in an attempt to balance the books once again again over this summer. Mate's perhaps a player that goes a little bit under the radar at Reading. You know, throughout the season a lot we've spoken about like the Elises, the Giles, the Ajarias at times as well, but Mate consistently shows up for Reading in important matches. In his previous 3 seasons with Reading, he's hit double figures in all of them. And I think when he was out injured for that brief moment in time, Reading definitely missed his presence going forward. I think he's got quite a few things that go his way. 25, still at a decent age, and he's quite versatile, whereby he can play anywhere across that forward line. So you can see why there would be some interest from Premier League clubs in there. Nottingham Forest and Bristol City are both interested in Blackpool striker Jerry Yates, who's just had his most prolific season to date with Blackpool in League One, scoring 20 goals and picking up 6 assists. I think that this transfer will hinge a little bit depending on how Blackpool actually gets on in the playoffs, but it's understandable to see why the interest is here. Nottingham Forest especially looking to strengthen their forward line. They've had the underachieving Lyle Taylor, Lewis Grabban as well. Obviously they had Murray in on loan. They're looking to target someone a little bit younger who's going to be able to lead the line, and at 24 years old Jerry Yates ticks a lot of boxes for what Forest are looking for. By the sounds of things with Bristol City, it seems as if they're going to be having quite a big clear out over this summer transfer window. Quite a few players free to leave and their contracts running out. Obviously the biggest star being Famara Jeju. Whoever picks him up on the free transfer is going to be getting an absolute bargain. But Semenyo, one of their saleable assets, is being linked with a Premier League move. He's been on Crystal Palace's radar for the past couple of months. We'll wait and see if anything develops with that particular story. But there we have it, guys. That will wrap it up for today's video and for the Championship transfer rumour roundup. If you're happy to see this series back, make sure to leave a like. Like I said, 300 likes would be massively appreciated. Any other transfer rumours that we've not mentioned in today's video, get them down below. But apart from that, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.